The following podcast is an enticing media production.
Where the Nell have you been? Join us for conversation about life, business, and everything in between. Welcome to What the Nell, where we've got stories to tell. Here's your host, Nell Tice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast, the EcoPreneur's Edge edition with my co-host, Mikee Bentz. Mikee, welcome back for another splendid edition.
Hello, Nell, and thank you as always for having me. For those who don't know me, I'm Mikee with two E's. The two E's in my name stand for the environment and everyone, the two things that I care about most. And today they're going to stand for energy, excitement, or something, because that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm so excited to dive into this topic. I'm putting my money where my mouth is in terms of procuring sustainable energy for my home and business. And I have I don't know how I became an expert on how to procure natural energy or just the different types of energy we can use in 2025. But I've given this kind of keynote a couple of times, so I'm super excited to dive in.
Good. Well, I'm excited too, because I think this is an area that maybe is often not as explored as much as other areas of sustainability, especially because it can be very regional too, right? I mean, we just talked about before we started recording tidal energy and wind energy and oil and coal and all of the different types of energies that maybe aren't quite as accessible to some people or downright impossible. Like we just both said, we don't have oceans in our backyards, but we wish we did for different reasons other than energy sustainability, maybe. But so Mikee, what is I don't want to say what's your favorite type of energy, but what type of energy are you consuming now? What kind of benefits are you seeing from that, and all the details?
So I think I can answer all those questions, even though we're focusing on one. I am currently using solar energy in my home. I'm connected to the grid though, so I don't have a battery. So typically, if I have a surplus, which I have so far every year that I have had my solar panels, I can put natural, sustainable, renewable energy back into the grid. If I were to have a battery and conserve my solar energy, then I would not be able to be connected to the grid. And if something happened where we had a month of no sun, I could potentially not have power in my home. So I opted to share my renewable energy and also protect myself in the event that I can't produce enough renewable energy on my own.
Yeah.
My favorite type of energy is nuclear fusion energy, which I know that there's super exciting things we can get into a little bit later concerning that. And the other types of energy that I'm aware of currently are going to be coal and petroleum, the quote unquote fossil fuels, natural gas, tidal energy, which is utilizing machines and technology to harness the energy of the ocean as it lifts the machine and drops the machine with the force of the waves. It actually creates energy. There's wind energy. There's obviously solar energy, which is what I'm using. Oh, and then at my businesses, my salon and dance studio, I don't own the buildings. I just lease them. So I had to be very mindful about how I procure my natural energy. So in my businesses, I use solar and wind procured from an energy supplier. There used to be one, it was Delaware and New Jersey. They have since added renewable energy here in Pennsylvania. So I am using a local solar and wind farm energy supplier at my businesses where I can't opt to buy the solar panels like I did at my home.
Right. So that's a question. So for anybody renting a space anybody that doesn't own their space, how would one go about sourcing renewable energy when it seems like maybe you just don't have the control over that?
So there's two ways really that three ways really that I'm familiar with, one of which you can do on your own with no outside or third party help, and the other two would require the help of your landlord. If you're renting or leasing a space and want to do renewable energy, you can go to your local municipal government. For us, it's PPL. Your public utility, and search through their marketplace of suppliers and choose one that fits your ethos and choose one that fits your budget. If anyone moves into a place and starts their electric utility service and they don't go to that marketplace, you're just going to get the standard utility rate. So even if, and I don't judge, I'm here to share my knowledge and spread, my expertise. If anyone doesn't feel so called to consume renewable energies, you still want to go to that marketplace to try and find the best rate for your household. And I know that everyone's at a different point in their life and everyone's on a different budget. So we're just here to recommend the best things, for you wherever you are. We'll meet you halfway.
Yeah.
And then the other two options would be talking to your landlord and seeing if your landlord wanted to purchase solar panels, which would be a great investment for them. It is, in my opinion, the way of the future. Great for the environment, great for whoever the owner is, pocketbook, if you will, and has some other benefits like building insulation. So I actually don't have to utilize as much electricity because my solar panels help insulate my roof. So the heat that rises doesn't escape as easily as if I didn't have the solar panel. So there's many different ways that solar panels can be beneficial to the property owner, the landlord, or if you own your own place, then you. And then the final way would be to let the solar company put the solar panels. It's almost like they would rent your roof.
What?
So they will offset your electricity needs, or they will pay you a stipend or dividend or something from allowing them to own the hardware, but lease it on your property or your landlord's property.
Okay.
So that could potentially be a decrease in the overall utility bill for your landlord, which could then, be passed on as rental savings. I don't know if that even exists in 2025.
Rental savings.
But it could also, like I said, help with insulation or cooling costs in the summer. So not only are we benefiting the environment by installing the solar panels, but we're also usually getting some kind of financial incentive to do so as well.
Okay, I love hearing this, and I'm very intrigued. I've looked into solar panels for our home quite a few years ago, but it was still a very new thing to the area, and there was like one company. And I live in Lebanon, and there still might only be one company, but it's something worth definitely looking back into now. But I want to know something with solar panels. Have you noticed? So you told us the benefits about not consuming as much energy because the panels absorb some of that heat and sunlight, obviously. So what are some things that you found you had to get used to? Do you find that, there are like glitches in the power, or like, is there anything that you noticed that was different about consuming solar energy versus being connected to the grid and consuming that energy?
So because I am still connected to the grid, which is how I can share my energy and also receive, I get a small but noticeable paycheck every year from PP&L. So I tell everyone that my home, I have Metro Mikee Salon, I have Metropolis Pole Dance Studio, and I have Metro Power Plant at my home because I'm helping create renewable, sustainable energy. So I just a serial entrepreneur. I can't not make something a business.
I get it.
But so in terms of like the only negative I have seen was my solar panels, and man, I can go in so many different directions. So I want to get back to the negative. But if anyone needs solar panels, I have done the due diligence. I have done the research. I literally walked around the entire farm show
Oh my
in
gosh.
2020 in January, before the pandemic shut all of us down. And I talked to every solar company. I got referrals. I had meetings. I had one-on-ones. I invited people into my home,
Oh my gosh.
salespeople, and it all just felt like so snake oil salesman,
Oh no.
like dirty used car salesman.
Yeah.
I found the one person out of all of them, the diamond in the rough, and that is who I utilized. He was so forthright and forthcoming when it came to the knowledge and information that he shared. He presented it in a way that I could, myself and my spouse could understand.
Right.
There was no pressure because he knew what he was bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And I was hooked. And I have never, for 1 minute, felt like it wasn't the proper decision for me. And I have never for 1 minute felt like I should have gone through any other person or utilized any other referral from him. Now, he has since left the one company that was servicing our area because there are many companies. So if anyone needs a solar referral for themselves or their landlord, I promise you I have the best one. The only thing that I would ask is if you come to me for the referral, just have your most current energy bill on hand. Okay, so there's that. Get that out of the way. Put my snake oil salesman boots back in the briefcase. And the only time, because I utilized a company that I loved from a person who I trusted, and technology has come just a little bit away, and the world has changed when it comes to like temperatures, sunlight, exposure. So I ended up having this weird problem where my solar panels were producing too much. The hardware that they were wired with couldn't hold the load going into the converter box. So I had like a month where like my fuse was blown. And because it's technology that's not like super popular and there's not many people doing this work, which is why our government should be incentivizing people getting into the field of solar and renewable energy installation. There was a month where like I was going back and forth with this company to figure out what was wrong, number one, and when we could coordinate our schedules to get them back out. And they came out and they were like, man, you're just collecting too much sunlight. You blew the whole thing up.
What a problem to have.
So now they re-hardwired it. I'm actually producing more energy now that my solar panels are going on 5 years old than I was when they were initially installed.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's a question. Do you have to somehow keep them clean? Like, what's the maintenance like on this?
In Pennsylvania, we just have this beautiful thing called the Central Pennsylvania climate. And so the rain will come down, the snow and the ice will, kind of form a layer. But because the solar panels are black and they are absorbing sunlight, the ice will, it will almost like exfoliate my solar panels. So, the little birds come in the spring, April showers bring May flowers, and they wash all the little bird turds, off the solar panels. The dust will come in the summer, the rain will wash it off, and the hurricane will blow it sideways. And so, no, I don't have to do anything extra.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay, so I'm loving all of this. We'll have to have another chat off air. Off air. I'm like on live radio right now? No, that's the other thing I do.
I love it.
Podcast. But okay, so this is all really good information about solar energy. And I know getting back to a few of the other energy sources that we talked about earlier in the episode, you said that your other favorite one is nuclear fusion. Could you please explain that to us that maybe are not so familiar with it?
So we know a lot in this area about nuclear fission.
Fission. See, I don't even know the right terminology.
We had the TMI nuclear fission meltdown, back in the late 70s. We had the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. So we have had... obviously Einstein came forth and put out the equations and stuff that led to the atomic bomb. So we're very well versed in nuclear fission. And I will say, in terms of energy, I think that is going to be what carries us into a type 1 civilization when we can circumvent all the petty BS we're going through now and actually become the species that we're meant to be, it will be because of nuclear fission. Now, fission is great because it produces the most clean energy. Yes, I know that there's nuclear waste, but there's ways that we can deal with that as well. And the more we use nuclear fission, the more money is going to go into research and development for us to find ways to recycle nuclear waste, for us to utilize them multiple times instead of just one time, to find storage facilities that are going to be long lasting. So like the more we use nuclear, the better nuclear is going to be, and it is going to just exponentially outperform solar and wind.
Interesting.
Nuclear fusion, we all know of the best nuclear fusion reactor because it's called our sun.
Yeah.
And our sun produces infinite energy. We can't even harvest it with all. If we mined the entire Earth and turned it into a big solar panel, we could not collect all the solar energy from my favorite nuclear fusion reactor. We are doing experiments that are being spearheaded in places by like Japan and the UK, California, here in the US. I believe Argentina has started testing nuclear fusion reactor capabilities. If we can get to the point where we can have a nuclear fusion reactor here on Earth, our energy troubles are no more.
Gone.
We will have unlimited energy. It's going to take a while, probably decades at this point, but not centuries. So that's great news.
Yeah. So do you think this is actually a project that is being taken on and that will actually happen in our lifetime?
I believe it will happen in our lifetime. Even if like the best statistics would say that it doesn't happen in our lifetime, even with all the craziness that humanity is throwing at us, I believe that humans are going to solve the nuclear fusion problem.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's pretty incredible. And that's amazing. So I'm really interested now and looking forward to seeing how that progresses. But I do quickly want to touch on wind energy because I noticed recently we took a trip up to Canada and we drove through a lot of areas where there were big, huge open fields, and we saw those a lot of those turbines, and they're going and everything, and I'm just thinking, wow, I really should look more into how this all works. Is this really, how sustainable is it, and all the details. Do you know much about wind energy?
I do know about wind energy. I don't have a gigantic field, or I don't own a mountain, where my house is.
Not yet.
And I don't own, we don't own any part of the ocean. So wind energy, while I do believe it has its merits and benefits, it's not beneficial to me for my journey. And that's okay. Yeah. Not everything has to be for everyone.
Right.
As I start looking at the long-term effects of the wind turbine, wind collection, a few things come to mind that may end up outweighing the benefits from wind, and that's why we should opt for solar and nuclear over long-term wind and even tidal energy. Because when we start putting things in nature, it's not only going to disrupt natural ecosystems. Like I don't believe that currently it's really affecting birds' migratory patterns or whales, summer trips to the Arctic. But the more we put, the more problems we're going to notice.
Right.
And then as you go even out longer than a year for a migratory season, every wind turbine only has approximately a 20-year life cycle.
Okay, did not know that.
So you will need to build another gigantic wind turbine to replace the one that has become faulty.
Right.
We also don't have a great recycling, reduction, or reusing program. So these gigantic, mammoth, monolithic structures just go sit in the landfill, and a lot of them are made out of metal, which, certain metals, like there's copper in the engines in the head, so they can be reused practically infinitely. But a lot of the other parts are plastic. And so we're just going to have these gigantic things breaking down over 400 years, turning us all into microplastics.
I mean,
instead
it
of the
seems a
limited amount we have now.
little counterproductive, if you ask me. So I see. Thank you for educating us on that because, yeah, I didn't know the materials that they were made of and that they only lasted 20 years. I mean, when I say only, I mean 20 years is not that long. And especially when we're talking about energy sources, because energy is something that is required for us to sustain life, no matter what kind of energy that is for you. So, really insightful details. Was there another energy source that I wanted to touch on?
So there's Tidal, and then
Yes.
the tidal energy is really cool. It's not feasible for a lot of people and has
Yeah.
some of the similar long-term downfalls that wind does.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to get to a point, touching on the fossil fuels. We're
Yeah.
going to get to a point, maybe not in any of our lifetimes, but we're going to use them all.
Yeah.
If we have a system that is not prepared to, humans, you just said it now, I heard it, we cannot live without energy.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a time in human history where we can be free range humans ever again. It will never
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So we will always need an energy source. If we exhaust our fossil fuels and have no backup,
Right.
then we're just, civilization collapse is imminent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very real thing.
I'm a huge fan and advocate for all the amazing things that fossil fuels have done thus far. I think that we can still, as an eco warrior, I think that we can still utilize fossil fuels as we transition to something cleaner. And I think we will have to utilize fossil fuels as we transition to something cleaner, renewable, more sustainable.
Sure.
But it is not going to last forever, which brings us to the natural gas revolution, which
Right.
is in certain ways less harmful for our atmosphere than fossil fuels can be, but they're more damaging to the actual planet, to the core, the crust, the
core of the
literal
earth.
part of Earth that we walk on. So there's going to be, I'm very much a fan and advocate of utilizing natural gas as a slightly more abundant, slightly cheaper,
Better to cook with.
non-renewable. But yep, it's great to transition, and I hope that it just is that a nice little boom. We transition, and then we find all the ways to make solar, wind, nuclear, fission and fusion, and tidal energy, and then geothermal energy.
Yes, geothermal's new-ish.
Well, geothermal's the oldest one besides the sun.
Right. Well, so when I say new-ish, I mean new-ish in homes. How about
Yes.
that? So I know, so there's a friend of ours that just built a house probably 2-ish years ago, and everything was custom built, not in a development, on land that they purchased and everything. And one thing that was very important to them was geothermal heating, and it's in the floor. So I don't know a lot about it. I know that it works. But can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the geothermal is typically, they will drill the way that you would drill for oil. However, they're going to drill for a like a pocket of heat or a pocket of hot water.
Got it.
When they hit that, they're going to use the heat that comes off to run your own, usually like distilled or filtered water through the layout of the geothermal cycle. The water is going to go down. It is going to get heated by the geothermal energy. It's going to raise it back up through the pipes into the home. And that's going to be what heats, the hot. You're not using the hot water. You're
Right.
using the heat from the water going through the cycle to heat your hot water, to heat your, floor, if you have it in your floor, to heat your radiators, to heat whatever electric cycles that you're using.
Yeah.
There's also just some things to be said about that. With the population getting bigger, the more that we drill geothermally, the less stable our Earth is going to become. So we
Makes
could
sense.
essentially create gigantic earthquakes
Oh, wow.
if everyone just switched to geothermal tomorrow. Another thing that could that is happening is we're doing the same kind of harm to our Earth because there's geothermal fracking. So
Yeah.
instead of drilling these nice, beautiful, sturdy holes. We're just sending this thing down and it's like exploding, and it will put all these micro fractures into the earth, and then all the heat or steam or hot water will seep into all those little micro fractures. So it makes the geothermal fracking process a lot quicker and a little bit more affordable, but it's doing untold damage to the literal earth that we're walking on.
Right. I mean, when you start putting sources of energy in places that they weren't meant to go, that usually spells some sort of trouble in the future. I mean, my gosh, I feel like we covered quite a few sources of energy. I've lost energy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I better plug in.
I told you, I don't know how I just like absorbed all this knowledge over the course of my life, but like I know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, and especially because you also have experience with it. And when you're passionate about something and, you do all the research, you have the experience and everything, and, why not share that with the world? So here we are. That's why we're here. So thank you, Mikee, for sharing your expertise along these lines with everyone. So everybody will be able to know how to find you. In the show notes, of course, there's a link for everyone. But like you mentioned, I want to reiterate that if anybody out there is looking for to procure solar energy for your home or business, reach out to us, to Mikee, because there is a referral. So yeah, what I gathered from that part of the conversation was definitely go with a referral from somebody you know and trust.
Yes, definitely, because there's enough tragedy going on. I don't want how your family, procures energy to be an even worse traumatic event for you.
No, we less trauma, Awesome. Okay. Well, Mikee, thank you so much for being here today, sharing this knowledge with us as per usual. And then to everyone listening, thank you. And watching, thank you. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and the thumbs up. And if you are listening to this on your favorite audio platform, please leave us a review. That's how we grow here at the What the Nell podcast. But I will remind you to stay tuned for the last remaining episodes of the EcoPreneur Edge this season, because we've got a couple of really good ones. So definitely hang out, stay tuned with us. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.
To learn more about how to tell your story, connect with Nell at enticingmedia.com. That's ENTICEING media.com. Thanks for listening to the What the Nell podcast.